Okay, here we are. So thank you everyone for being here today. So we are going to have a three speakers webinar with a discussions at the end where we will discuss basically how AI is transforming workplaces. And it is really about getting some feedback from professional experiences and open the discussions and mostly around like four main questions, which can be organized differently between speakers, but about first, what is their work, how AI is changing it, what is the future of this work, that is the idea of the future, and what could be advices basically to handle this transformation. So it is really sharing experience, and we really hope open basically the discussions between us about this. So we will start with Qingchen Zhang, which is a currently senior lecturer and the director of the Fusion Intelligence Lab in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Exeter, I'm sorry of the pronunciation, as well as a visiting researcher at Imperial College London. Previously was MSCA individual fellow at the Personal Robotic Laboratory of the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering at Imperial College London. He also previously worked as a teaching fellow and research associate in the same department. His main research interests include computer visions, deep learning, multimodal information fusions, and robot perception. He also has been listed amongst the world top 2% scientists in both 2023 and 2024. He is a member of the UK Writer and Peer Review College and fellow of the Higher Education Academy. So thank you very much for being here, and I'm very looking forward to the presentation, actually.
Thanks so much, Quentin, for the invitation and for the introduction. Now, it's my great pleasure to give my talk here. So I will share my screen. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, great. So I will start. So hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to talk about how AI is changing my job here. So this is the content that I will talk about. Firstly, I will introduce what is my job and then how AI is changing it, and what is the future and how can I prepare for this transition. So what is my job? I'm currently a senior lecturer in computer vision and AI. So this position is equivalent to associate professor in the UK. So basically, I need to do many different things, including teaching, research, student supervision, and administration in the department. And also, I need to do outreach and public engagements. I also need to do academic service. For example, I need to review papers, review grant applications. Okay, so in my job, usually I need to do many, I summarize my job actually. In my daily work, I need to write a lot of emails. To students, colleagues, line manager, my head of department, collaborators, and many other people. And also, I need to do a lot of academic writing, for example, the papers, reports, grant proposals, and also write feedback for my students' work, and I need to write review. And also, I need to do some time-consuming work, like creating websites for workshops, drawing figures, and also sometimes I need to find the latest work in my field, and also I need to debug the code. So actually, I think AI is very helpful for me to handle some of these tasks. So how AI is changing my job? So firstly, AI is changing the content of my teaching. So this term, today I just finished my teaching this term. I teach a new module called prompt engineering. So actually, this kind of module didn't exist before we have large language models. So actually, as far as I know, our university maybe is the first one in the UK to have this kind of prompt engineering module. So it's actually a very challenging for me to prepare this module because I couldn't find very good reference materials online because we have 22 lectures, but the online videos always may only have maybe 1 hour or something like that. So we need to design the module. I think this is the first thing that AI, how AI is changing my job. So basically, to give me a new module to teach. And also, another thing I can feel is that because of the generative AI, we really need to talk to students again and again about how the use of generative AI, I mean, how generative AI should be used in their study, for example, reports and coursework. According to our university policy, actually, we have three types of courseworks. In the first type, students are not allowed to use AI. In the second type, they can use some AI in the report, and in the third class, they can use AI. For example, in my module, because I'm teaching prompt engineering, the students need to use ChatGPT and other models in their coursework. And also, I think in general, AI is really improving my efficiency and saving my time so that I can have more time to do creative work. I will give some examples later. The first example is that I'm frequently using ChatGPT to check language issues in emails or academic writing. Here I'm showing an example. Last month I organized a workshop in Glasgow. I invited some important speakers. So in these emails, I didn't want to have any language errors. So basically, I wrote a draft and then I sent it to ChatGPT to check the language issues to make sure everything is okay. Of course, I only do this for important emails, but still it's very helpful. It can save me a lot of time. And also for academic writing, I'm also using the ChatGPT to check the language of my papers, for example, paper drafts or some maybe grant application. I think this is really helpful and very convenient. One thing I would like to mention is that we are now able to create the customized version of ChatGPT. So for example, in my case, I created an email GPT. Basically, I use the natural language to create this email GPT. So this one can specifically improve emails. So I don't need to type any prompts. I simply copy my email draft here, and then it can help me to improve. So it's very, very, very convenient. Previously, when I didn't have this email GPT, I always copy and paste the prompts, which was time consuming. Yeah, this is an example of using the email GPT. For example, I simply copy the email here and it can improve. This is very, very convenient and really save me some time. But I would like to mention that we should always double check AI's output. For example, when we send the emails out, we need to double check. We don't want to send not suitable information to important people, right? So always double check AI's output. And another thing, another way I was using ChatGPT is I created websites. For example, for the workshop, this website actually was created with the assistance of AI. Sorry, the prompts are in Chinese. So basically, I mentioned my requirement to ChatGPT, and it can help me to create the code. So basically, I copy the code, and then I can update the website easily. So in this case, I don't need to learn how to write this kind of HTML file. What is the rules or what is the rule to do that? I simply use natural language to modify and to create the website, which is really, really helpful for me. Another thing, I call this actually reverse engineering. So sometimes we may find some very nice figures in some good papers. For example, some papers from Nature and Science, they always have very nice figures. But for example, this one, I like this one, but I don't know how to draw this kind of picture and this figure. So basically, I send this figure to ChatGPT, and I ask ChatGPT to generate a prompt that can generate this figure. This is the output. They are not exactly the same, but more or less they are similar. Then I can basically use this. They simply give me some Python code. Then I can modify some data, and then I can generate this figure, which is very, very convenient. And also, I like this figure as well. So I think AI is also a very good tool or assistant for research. So for example, I can discuss research ideas with ChatGPT. It will give me some some comments, some just suggestions, and also some reference for me to have a look. For example, in this idea is RGB to thermal translation. It gives me some very nice reference. By clicking this links, I can read the paper directly to know more information. I think this is a very good way to do literature review. I mean, sometimes I think it's more efficient than even than Google Scholar. Another thing I think AI where AI is very helpful is that AI can help to debug. So for example, I use a robot to capture some data, but when I try to extract the data, I have some bugs. Previously, we need to Google or to go to some forum to find the answer. But now we simply copy the error information to ChatGPT, and it can analyze the reason, and it can give me a solution to this bug. So from my experience, ChatGPT is really good at solving many bugs. So this saved a lot of time again. So what is the future? I think AI will become more and more powerful, and AI will be able to help me do more things, saving more time for me. So in this case, I can have more time to do other work. I think we need to learn how to live with AI because in the future will be an age of AI. And human AI collaboration is really important. So this is a very famous and very old saying in China. So basically, global person is not born with special talents. They succeed by making the best use of things around them. So I think if we can make best use of ChatGPT or other large language models, that will be very, very helpful. So how can we prepare for this transition? I think that the basic idea is that AI is a tool. We should learn how to use it. So it's similar to we should learn how to drive a car, how to ride a bicycle. This is very similar. The same tool, I mean, for the same tool, the method of use is crucial. So different people using the same tool may achieve very different results. So I think we need in the future, I mean, to prepare for the transition, we need to learn some basic knowledge of AI. Of course, we don't need to maybe for most people, we don't need to know the mathematics behind AI, but we should know some basic knowledge about AI. And of course, I think a very useful thing is that we can learn some prompt engineering techniques because prompts are the way that we communicate with large language model. To make best use of them, we need to learn some basic techniques to write a good prompt. And of course, we need to use AI in our study, in our research, in our work. I think this is very helpful especially to improve efficiency. And some of my opinions are that AI can do many things, but AI cannot do everything. So personally, I'm not concerned that AI will steal my job in the future because AI cannot do everything. And also, I think if you think AI is an enemy, you will be very concerned. But if you think AI is a tool or assistant, you will be very happy because you have a very powerful tool and a very powerful assistant. Yeah, thanks so much. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to discuss.
Thank you very much, Jingchen. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. So Jingchen is gonna leave before our discussions time at the end. So I would like to open if you have any questions for him right now, and we can take I think 5 minutes, 6 minutes maximum to answer any questions. So you can just unmute yourself and raise your hand, or you can also drop your question in the chat and I can read it. I think the time. Jonas, please.
Yes, thank you so much. Really a great overview, and it's really exciting to see what you're doing. I was actually, I would have so many questions, but I'm especially interested. This first thing that you mentioned, this module on prompt engineering. So that sounds super cool. And I would just be curious if you could explain a little bit more what's the dynamics of this module. So is it like a hands-on session or how does it work? Because I think it's a great idea to have something like that.
Actually, we have both. So in general, we have 22 lectures where we teach the basic principle of AI, the techniques to write good prompts. We also have 11 lab sessions where students can can, for example, can try to use different prompts to see the difference between the outputs. So we have both the theoretical sessions and also the practical sessions.
Okay, thank you. And can I add the second part of the question?
Yeah.
Now that the modules develop more and more, and basically there every 2 months there's another ChatGPT update or from the other LLMs. Do you see also a change then in the need of the quality of the prompting? So maybe personally, I have the feeling what was really important at the beginning, because models were still quite stupid. Maybe now it's not so important anymore to have the perfect prompt, because the models are so good that they can counteract, let's say, and compensate like bad
Okay.
prompting. But
Yeah, this is a very good question. So firstly, I think because the models are becoming better and better, so some prompts are not so useful, or we don't need to use some prompts. For example, before we had ChatGPT 01, we need to write a prompt. The prompt is let's think step by step to let the model do reasoning. But because 01, it has reasonability, very good one. So if we use 01, we don't need to write this let's think step by step prompt. So I think this is one thing that, as you mentioned, we don't need to use some prompts if the models are good enough. But from another perspective is that no matter how good the model is still a tool. So we need to learn how to use the tool. For example, if you have a very perfect car, but you don't know how to drive, then the car is not useful for you, right? So I think the similar thing here. If AI is very powerful, but we don't know how to use that, it still is not very useful. So we need to learn some techniques to use this kind of tool. Yeah.
thank you.
Please, Pankaj.
Hello, I have a shorter question, again coming to the module on prompt engineering. So when you're teaching and you're teaching students with generation of prompt, using the right prompt to have an expected output. So according to you and your course module, is it better to use shorter prompts, which will generate more accurate information, or should we use longer length prompts to have accurate information? Since
Okay.
you also mentioned always to double check everything.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is also a very good question. So, to be honest, I don't think the length of the prompt is very important, but the content of the prompt is very useful. So, for example, you need to give enough context information. There is a saying that from nature, the context is king. So, in this sense, you need to give enough context information, and also your task should be very specific. For example, if we are using AI for coding, you need to tell AI which programming language you are going to use and what is your task. So you should be very specific. So I think if your prompt is very specific, if you provide enough contact information, you don't need to have a very long prompt. So the content of the prompt is more important compared to the length, I think.
So you mean to say, like, if somebody is using that for a policy purpose, so we need to do some research and using some more specific terminologies in the prompt, and that will generate more specific response, or you mean like the content here means being very specific, or it does not have to use certain terminologies?
Okay. Specific. When I say specific, I mean your task and your information should be specific. So, for example, it's actually very similar to human AI communication. I think it's very similar to human communication. So let's just assume that you are talking to a professor. You want to ask a question to your professor. But in this case, you need to provide enough background information, right? You need to mention your question clearly. So I think here is the same. So when we talk to AI, we can just think AI is a human. So we need to ask our question clearly. We need to provide enough background information. I think in this sense, they are very similar. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. It reminds me very shortly in linguistics, the Grecian maxims that requires that you are going to provide when you talk to a human just the right amount of information you think that the other person speaking has already. And so I think you're right. You need to establish the enough context that the machine and yourself can evolve together.
Yes.
It's very interesting. So I know you're short in time. Is there like any last question before Jingchen might need to catch his train? Is it good? Okay. If you have any questions, Maya,
Oh, there's one question.
is it okay for you, Jingchen?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, Maya, please.
Hello. Sorry, I just joined late and was in and off. Thank you so lot for sharing, how you are using it. I imagine you explored it a bit, and I'm always curious, like what are the implications, for privacy, if we share grant or even research ideas, then it will be used for training other things, or I mean, this thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Actually, in one of our lectures, we talked about privacy issue. There are two things I would like to mention. Firstly, we suggest do not put sensitive information into the chatbot, any chatbot. For example, the maybe commercial secret or your research ideas, as you mentioned. So be very careful when you do that. Another thing I would like to say is that at least in ChatGPT, in the setting of ChatGPT, there is an option that you can switch off the option. If you switch off, your data will not be sent to OpenAI, I think. Otherwise, your conversation will be sent to OpenAI for training next generation of model. So there is an option there you can switch off. Personally, I switched off this option.
Oh, that's great. And do you also use other models like Claude AI from Anthropic? Do you have experience if it also treats data differently?
Personally, I mainly use ChatGPT, so I don't have enough experience using other models. Sorry.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Jingchen, a lot for your time and your presentation. And I hope to see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Quentin, for the invitation. I think this is a great opportunity for me as well. Okay.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So
And
yeah, I will go to catch my train, so I may leave earlier. I'm sorry for this.
no worries. If anyone has a questions, please contact Jingchen directly. I'm sure we'll be happy to
Okay, sure, no
answer
problem.
anything.
Okay. Yeah.
So we will move to
Thank
the
you.
next speakers. Thank you. And so George Balaska. So I have a little bio, but I'm sure George will correct me. George is a researcher and a PhD student at the National Center of Scientific Research in Greece called Demokritos. He holds a bachelor in computer science and artificial intelligence and a master in intelligence and adaptive system. His passion for coding emerged early through automating tasks in video games. This interest led him to pursue higher education, where he developed expertise in machine learning through projects like evolving a foraging robot during his bachelor studies, or his master research expanding into applying machine learning to socioeconomic challenging, completing a dissertation on agent-based modeling in macroeconomics. While he pursuing his master degrees, George worked as a teaching assistant, which ignited his passion for academia and knowledge sharing. Recently, he has been a very nice partner for me to develop digital technology for the European project we are part of called Health Cascade, focusing on creating trustworthy co-creation. So I will give the floor to George. Please adapt if I say something silly. And thank you for being here, George.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Quentin. No, and everything was great. I'm not sure if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so my name is George Velasquez, as Quentin said. I work in NCSR Demokritos, and I'm part of the e-health and knowledge management unit, where we have worked in a bunch of programs. Mainly, I have worked in Health Cascade and a few other of them. And my focus is in artificial intelligence and large language models. Sorry, my mouse is a bit weird. So during the past few years, we have worked in using deep learning and large language models to enable to enable people in our research group. And the main tool we have implemented is a transcription, information extraction, and information analysis tool. A tool that takes electronic health records and transforms them into simplified summaries, and then uses those to search literature and gives the results to the user. And a framework that does domain-specific dataset creation from, let's say you have a bunch of PDFs and you want to create a dataset, you can use those PDFs to create question answering datasets that you can then use to fine-tune and align large language models. And we're currently working on some tools to automate web scraping for different online resources, and then take those resources and give them to our users and create datasets to, again, fine-tune models. So how is AI changing my job? First of all, I have a job because of it, so that's nice. And other than that, as Vincent said, it helps a lot with a bunch of bureaucratic activities such as communication, simple writing that I have to do, helping me with the structure of my writing, with grammar, stuff like that. But I want to focus a bit more on the coding part. So it can help me with quick explanations of unfamiliar code, which is way more important than it sounds. It can help me with understanding error messages and suggest potential fixes, which can always be helpful, especially if you're using, like in AI, for example, a lot of the things are cutting edge, like it might have came out like last week, So you don't have the time to get familiarized with everything in depth. So it's very good to have something that can help you very fast to navigate the space. And it can assist with code refactoring and, to find relevant examples when working again with new libraries. And very importantly, it can help me to start learning faster. Like it lowers the barrier of entry to learn something. But again, you have to put in the work to actually become proficient with it. So it can provide me with comparisons between tools. So if there are two libraries that kind of do the same thing, it can give me examples of this is used for this use case, this other tool is better for this use case. Then I can make a more informed decision without having to search for hours and hours just to make sure that I don't make a mistake that, 2 weeks down the line, I realize that, oh, this is a problem. It can explain again trade-offs with concrete examples showing me why something is wrong, give me help with documentation, and help me navigate large code bases. So this is an example of code completion. It's, I think, the most used that I see, because when you write code now, you have the Copilot, and what it does is it, let's say, auto-completes your code, and it tries to pretty much speed up what you're trying to do, which is a very nice quality of life thing. I took this from the Copilot website, so it's a bit of a marketing thing. Like, it doesn't always work as good. You have to make sure that what it gives you is actually correct. But this is something that I use daily, like all the time, and it can be very helpful, especially with boilerplate stuff that just throws out like trees what I want to write, and a lot of the time it can be correct. So this speeds up my coding by a lot, and it can help me navigate the code. Now this is a more complex example, right? I wanted to use a library, which is very good, but it's mostly created for users. So the idea is you just take it, you run the code, and you use it as a user, but it has very good implementation. So I was thinking of, okay, I'm gonna see what they do, try to use some of it for myself, but I don't have any documentation, nothing. So these are the functions that they have. But again, it looks like this. It's kind of very hard to realize what it actually does. It has zero documentation. And if you want to see a more clear view, it's like this. It's like 470 functions, and you just get the function name. I don't know if you can see my mouse. The parameters, and then what it returns. But again, it's a lot of them. It would probably take me like a week to understand everything and see how it works, and I would still not have really a perfect image of this. So I can extract this. I can ask a model, give it like the JSON with all the function names, what it returns, what the parameters are, and also give it the repository name, and then I can start asking it questions. So I try to describe that, okay, what endpoint should I use for file search, and what I need to do successfully submit a file search request. and it can give me some recommendations, which is very helpful. And in this case, like I'm sure it saved me more than a week, pretty much, to be able to actually successfully run an example, because then I would just need to go into the code and look for it. But you know, there are limitations to keep in mind, like everything that you get suggested, like it requires a verification. A lot of the time, even the latest models, like I think the latest Claude model is trained from May, but I was trying to use, like, this library came out on September, I think. So it has no idea about it, just not there. And especially in AI, when you have everything comes out like last week, you're never going to have the latest information. So you need to make sure that you provided the information and everything that it gives you back is correct. It doesn't just do assumptions. It works best as a starting point. So from you to start to figure out the domain, but not just trust whatever it tells you. So you need to have enough of an understanding and enough of an instinct to realize that, oh, this looks weird, maybe I should look into it. It's very valuable for understanding and learning, again, not for making like you're not going to ask it, create an architecture for this system and then expect it to be perfect from the start. And it can be very good with like legacy code exploration. And again, it's good to tell you what and how you can do stuff, but not to explain to you like why this stuff happened, why the original, let's say, author of some code took this decision. And I can show you like an example of a mistake, again, for the web scraping stuff. Like this is what it looks like, right? So you click here, you open one, and everything here, we just take the text, we take all the information, and we try to put this in a database. And I had implemented this, and it was the end of the day. So, you know, I wanted to go home and just wanted like a small part of code that will take all the information and just put it in the database. Like that's it. So I asked I don't remember if it was Claude or ChatGPT, one or the other, and it gave me this code. Like I had the look over it, looked okay. I was like, okay. I put it in, I tested it a bit, and I let it run for all night, and it like went and extracted, I think, like 100,000 news articles, right? So I go back the next day to test it. And again, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to save or update news articles to the database. And it was like very simple steps, just connect to the database and retrieve the news article using the URL if it exists. If it exists, update it. If it doesn't exist, create it, and then just close the connection to the database. And I tested it before leaving the office by retrieving the URLs of news articles. So step by step, here it connects to the database. Here, if it exists, it puts the new information in the database. Here, if it doesn't exist, it just creates an empty thing. So if you don't have like any, if it's just because some of the URLs could be dead, like it didn't have any news. So you just put it in the database to make sure you don't test, you don't, you know, hit it again, and you move on with your life. And I went back the next day, and, you know, like I had 100,000 elements in my database, entries in my database, but no information. And yeah, the reason for that is when I asked it to put stuff in the database, like it would take everything, it would go and put it in the correct place, but it would create just an empty thing, you know? Like the thing it would create would have no relevancy, which was a relevancy check for my domain, no title, no text. So I did all the work, I hit all the websites, I put them all in the database correct, but it just put empty stuff because I should have checked better. So this is an example of like this worked great. It did everything that I asked it, but because my prompt was not good, because I was not clear enough, because it was the end of the day and I didn't check it, a mistake went through. So it is very important, especially in a use case like programming, when you need to be correct like every time, both in a does just run and in a conceptual point of view, to double check everything. And I just like changed this small thing here and it worked instantly. Like it was a very small mistake, but you know, for a night, everything that was not useful. So what is the future use of AI? I believe that at least in concerns to programming, I think that the most reliable improvements will come in areas where the patterns are very well defined, such as code completion and refactoring, detecting bugs, because if the bug has been detected once, it's possible for you to find it again. code documentation, and we'll be more challenging in stuff that like human expertise, experience, and everything needs to be properly synthesized, you know, to create a solution, such as high-level system architecture, the business logic of what you're trying to implement so it makes sense, and security components and stuff like that. So how do you prepare for this? I think you need to embrace its existence. A lot of programmers, not now, but at least in the start of the year, I think, did not want to use stuff like Copilot, let's say. So it's important to just accept that it exists, it's not going away, and it's good for you to use it. Just make sure you verify. Informing yourself of the actual capabilities of limitations of AI, which is there is a lot of hype about everything, but you need to be able to make sure that what you ask and what information you're going to get back is actually correct, and to strengthen your core skills so that you understand what it tells you. And again, focus on human advantages that the AI might not have and you can bring to the table. And yeah, practice on using it in a specific domain and acknowledge the trade-offs of its use. So it's easier to enter a domain, but well, if you use ChatGPT to do everything, you're not really going to get a lot of the experience of actually doing it yourself. So thank you very much. And this is my experience, at least using it for coding. And sorry for taking a bit more of your time.
No worries. Thank you, George. Thank you very much. Is there, we can open like any questions right now if you want, but we will have also normally a bit of time. I will also do a 10-minute presentations, which is very complementary to George, so it's nice. So up to you guys. If you have a burning question right now, please raise your hand and we can take like 5 minutes. And if not, you can keep it for after my time. So up to you. A short comment while people are thinking is that from Jing Chen and yours, George, is very interesting how you both use it for coding. And actually, you specify that, you know, the mistake examples that he did this very slight mistake.
It was nothing. I didn't see it and I retrieved 100,000 articles and I just didn't put them in the database. And then it stopped running for the day and poof, it went away like I had nothing.
Yeah, but this is very interesting, you know, like we say, oh, it's very good to organize and what we could consider complex and time consuming. Actually can make this tiny mistake that the system doesn't work at the end.
Yeah, in programming is not forgiving when you do this.
Okay, so I think we can continue and we'll open the discussions just after. So I'm gonna share my screen with you. Yes, share screen options. Okay, that's not what I want. Sorry, I don't use Zoom often, so I hope it's gonna work well. Up, can you see this? Can you see my screen? I think it's charging.
Yeah.
My computer is wondering what is going on right now, so I hope it's gonna work. Okay, can you hear me? For me, it's frozen, my screen.
Now we can hear you, Quentin, yes, but it says start the screen sharing, but doesn't actually show the screen.
Okay, well, we can wait maybe like 30 seconds. I'm maybe asking a bit too much to my old computer. Can I try to solve this? Alors. Cancel. Okay. Okay, your screen sharing is on pause.
It's on.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It say your screen sharing is paused, so we'll see. If I move my slide, can you see this? No. Okay.
No.
Let me try to solve. I love you know, IT challenge.
Now I try to move, but it's a blank page.
It's very strange why it say paused. No, wait, my apologize for this. It's always a bit tricky and hard to explain. Like AI, you cannot really explain why it's made these decisions. Okay, does it work now?
It's
Yes.
a blank
Yes.
page.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So normally it's work. So thank you. Sorry, I apologize. So thank you for having me. So for people who doesn't know me, I can come back here. My name is Quentin Loisel. I'm gonna basically share with you my experience of how AI is transforming my job. Just to give you a bit of feedback of what I'm doing, I'm part of the same consortium as George called Health Cascade, aiming to make co-creation trustworthy. So very shortly, co-creation is bringing diverse people together to solve complex problems. And our job together, so I'm a cognitive scientist and I work with George, who is a computer scientist, and we develop digital technology to improve, support, and basically make evolve this complex process. So basically, we're working already to develop digital technology when large language model became so accessible. But when it happened, so now 2 years ago, it just basically brought us a world quantity of new tools and new technology, and we realized that actually we could use it for plenty of processes. So for co-creation and collaboration, but also scientific practices and medical diagnosis. So now we are basically exploring and working on this, but also, so I'm also the coordinator of the Artificial Intelligence General Interest Groups of the Marie Curie Alumni Association. So I try to bring this group together. We'll speak a bit later. And I'm also the CTO of a new company we are creating to developing basically method and technology to improve collective intelligence. So this is a bit of my work. It's a mix of research and try to conceptualize in technology. But the hard, basically, coding work is mostly made by professionals like George, basically. So what's my job? First, there is a huge part of conceptualizing a complex AI human system. So collective intelligence, democratic, evidence-based, knowledge-sharing system. Scientific research is this type of complex system, basically, from a level of human interactions to multiple human and multiple AI, basically. It's basically a mix of cognitive science, complex information system, technologies, ethics, governance. Another part of my work is a lot of about communicating with diverse stakeholders. When I say communicating is gathering input from people, so talking about how they take place in their system, so I can understand how to conceptualize it, and sharing the results if we want to move on to certain directions. So it's basically diverse field, level of expertise, scientists, policymaker, industry, citizen, and I need to communicate in different formats. So a scientific paper is usually the good example, but it can be also courses, books, workshop. And then there is co-developing AI technology. So basically with George, try to identify the relevant place for the technology in the system, ensuring its alignment with the value, and monitoring the evolutions in the evolving world, basically, and the compliance with policies. So I used to be simply a researcher, and it evolved with plenty of more global duties. So I try to represent them in that way. And how AI is changing it. So first, a bit like George, basically, and Jingchen, we are also working on AI. So as AI is changing, our work is changing because our subject of research is changing. But if we take a difference for me, it's also like a generalization of AI in these different systems, like scientific research, is actually transforming it. I think it's a bit hard sometimes to realize it, but the research system we have now will be different in 3, 5, or 10 years completely. And it will be progressive, but it's happening basically. For my job of conceptualizing, accessing to literature, brainstorming idea, it impacts all the steps of my research workflow. On one side, because I actively try to test it and see if it's working. And also because I realize that it changed my way of thinking. I'm basically saying now like, oh, I have an idea. I'm not thinking like I'm going to write it down. I will, or I will just talk to my supervisor. I'm actually going to brainstorm it with AI. So my working reflex change. Communicating with stakeholders. It's very helpful. Basically, it accelerates the productions of all the contents. So like Ching Cheng showed about working email, but also adapting the level of communication between the diversity of peoples. For example, now I'm working on a book to try to explain how to cooperate with this technology. And one of the main approach of the book is to actually show example of how I use AI to write it and try to explain all the different sub-processes that people can actually appropriate themselves with. And also stimulate different perspectives from different peoples. It's really open new approach. I think for communication, it's a huge change. Also, we didn't speak a lot, but about generating new pictures, visuals. Some people are generating their slides with it. I don't, but it's possible. So it's definitely changing my way of communicating. And co-developing technology. I think the main change for me in that way, because it really depends on my capacity to conceptualize it. But I think, and George, I feel the same, is that it's opened a lot of new possibility to create technology, to imagine new form of interaction with humans, but it's moving very fast. It's changing so fast that it's almost a bit exhausting sometimes, because you cannot keep track to everything. But this is important, basically, to remember this, especially to get prepared about the transformation. So what is the future? So I might not be only positive on this one. I think we are moving toward an hybrid system. Basically, there is a growing number of AI technology coming from everywhere. I'm sure if you want, even if you want just having a writing assistant, I'm sure you can find 25 different types of technology today to help your writing. So it's basically coming because there is a huge versatility and it is a huge capacity. So now people are looking for how to use it well and implementing in the system. However, it makes also the system more complex to understand. I think it become for trying to conceptualize the impact on research, it's getting complex to see, for example, if you're brainstorming an idea, where is your intellectual contribution as a researcher and what is the contribution of the machine? And we see this complexity appearing in the guidelines or the different policy advice. It's very complex to define. So, but this is the idea of an hybrid system. Basically, I heard that from George and Ching Chen, being more productive. Some tasks are automated, and there is plenty of easy automation. For example, research literatures, maybe screening, writing, some things. It will be automated. So maybe some people who are very specialized in literature review, they might face some difficulty in the futures or some very specific administrative tasks, because now other people might be able to do it with AI. Also, the overall feeling is that you can do more with less. So even you have less time, or you don't have a secretary, or you don't have this, you can do it with AI. So it's basically producing more. However, it also asks us then to adapt ourselves much more. If you were very specialized in some things, it might not be enough now. You will need to know a bit more about everything and to be able to use AI to accomplish your different tasks. So it's keeping up with a fast-moving field, because AI is changing. It's dependent of the AI capacity, and AI is moving fast. So I don't know for you, but as I said just a slide before, it's sometimes a bit overwhelming about the evolution of AI. And you need to constantly ask yourself how you're going to adapt with new skills, basically. And my opinion as a cognitive scientist is that it's more cognitively requesting. I think when you're passionate about your job, it's a very exciting time. Enfin, it will be an exciting time because you say like, oh, I'm capable of much more than before. However, something I heard at the very beginning, and they stopped to say that, but it's like, oh, you're gonna use AI. It will save you time, you know, time for doing something more important. Often it was. So first, it's good to say that it's not gonna make your day shorter because the empty time will be fulfilled with other activity. And I don't know for you, but my challenge is that when I used to dedicate time for doing a simple task, now I need to dedicate time to make much more complex cognitive tasks. And it's tiring, it's exhausting, you know. It's asking much more energy than the repetitive one where you be used to do. And also maybe in the future, what I'm seeing a bit with the evolution is that, as I say, we need to keep up, we need to adapt. It's not much more what I hear about AI. They try to make AI that we can adopt it easily, but I'm a bit afraid that human might be basically smashed to be able to be performant with AI because human will be less performant for some tasks. So yeah, I'm a bit, I'm very interested about this, but I'm also a bit critics. So how can we prepare for these transitions? It's not always easy because today now AI can be used by anybody regardless to your field. You don't need to be an AI expert to use AI, and regardless your level of expertise. So I think the first, and there is so much information, it's moving very fast. So my advice for this is to stay informed. So, but for that, define your level of understanding of AI, and then find the appropriate channel relative to your work. Don't spread yourself. Try to regularly get an update. Take it with yourself, like, okay, every week I'm gonna read a bit or really find the right paper to read because you understand that it will impact your job. So you can optimally spend your time for it. Learn to use it. I know it has been said also, I think, I don't know who said that before, but I made, for example, like I made a course to implement AI in research workflow, and I didn't spend a lot of time about prompt engineering. And I think we had some discussion with Jonas and Benjab about like, oh, maybe prompting is not as important as it used to be before. And my advice would be to take a higher level on how AI is changing your work by understanding what task is likely to be automated, augmented, and what should be left to human cognitions. And if you understand enough what AI can do, stay informed about how it evolves and where are the key elements in your system that can be automated, augmented, and should be left by human cognitions, you will be able to navigate much more smoothly with the possible evolution of AI impacting your job. And then start small and learn how to use general tools. I think there is some very specialized tools. My advice is to learn more general one, very middle, like as we say, ChatGPT, Cloud, much more than these very specific tools that are sold online. And advocate for the workplace you want. Try to be active because being active is a good way also to keep to know how it's evolving, because even you learn how to adapt yourself. If a guidelines, policy, or a rules is decided above you, you will have to follow it. So it's a good time to advocate for what type of workplace you want. And my last advice, don't stay alone. Join a group which has similar interest. For examples, we have, if you're an MCAA member, we have these artificial general interest groups where we have activity that fulfill these different objectives, like regular meeting, AI Media Hub, webinar like this one. We try to create AI tool for our community. So I'm gonna close to this. If you're interested, there is a link to join. We have also, if you are not an MCAA members, we can also we have a newsletter for everyone where we can share resources and future activity. So yes, it's good for me. Sorry, I've been maybe slightly fast just to keep track with the time. I'm going to share the link in the chat. If there is any questions, please raise your hand while I'm doing this. I'm doing 2,000 things at the same time. Up. Okay, thank you very much. Is there any question? We have like 4 minutes, but if we can go a bit beyond, if some people are very interested and if others want to leave, they can. For discussion, I wanted to bring up the topic of how to credit all of her interaction. Yeah. And the need to be transparent and responsible. Do you have examples of role model that you follow? It's a very good question. And I think it's really debated in the community right now because as I said, it's my perspective, and I'm very curious to know your opinion about this, George, or other participants. But my idea is that when I use AI now, I'm using AI in so different time in my workflow. For example, for doing like brainstorming an idea, I can go through like, I don't know, 100 of interactions from last week to today. It can be very long and it's hard to keep track to everything. So some people was saying like, oh, you should just basically copy paste all your prompt and interactions, but nobody will check it, or they might use AI to check it actually, which is a bit curious. So for now, I'm more like trying to, there is policy guideline for that. And if you're part of an institution, so I advise you to follow it. It's not always optimal, it's not always perfect, but this is still the rules. So for you to protect you, it's better like this. And then I think it's better to conceptualize like good human AI interactions to optimize integrity. But I don't have an easy answer for that. Just add AI can also help to select specific leadership role at workplace for better. Yeah, it's actually a good point, Pengjai. I think it will be like almost using it at human resources agent, basically.
Yeah, I can expand my on that. It's I conducted research on like a working group, and we had a task to execute, and we executed that by having teamwork, and we executed that without using AI and with using AI, but selecting some leadership roles. And we could see there was a lot of difference it made in the outcome of the work and also the duration of the work. So in conclusion, if you use AI, if you have a specific task to do, you can ask AI, well, I have to do this work. And AI can tell you the kind of roles you need to collectively work in the team. And it will also sometimes give you like some, procedures as well. So for example, you sometimes need a time management skill, sometimes you need a strategic thinking, sometimes you just need leader and co-leader both. So there are certain. So there's no. Next question was like, yeah, there is no specific prompts I have researched on, but yeah, that's a very good question.
Sorry, I was mute. Yeah, it's very interesting actually. Imagining AI as like a manager basically for your team, helping you to organize your teamwork. I'm very curious, Jonas. Can you
Yeah,
say a bit about your paper?
no, it's not my paper, but I wish it was.
Maybe
No,
in the future.
no, it's really amazing. Yeah, it's related to this topic basically. So what people did, I think it was from Stanford people, they created a virtual team of researchers, so interdisciplinary, and they trained specific profiles of researchers. I forgot now, a bioinformatician, a chemist, and so, and they asked these people to have conversations, and only from time to time a human being was part of the discussion. And they really did amazing work. They developed new targets for drug development only by giving instructions how this AI, I forgot how they called it now, AI researchers or the virtual lab would communicate with each other, or the different AI researcher profiles. And it's a bit scary actually to read this. Yeah, but they now make the point that probably this will be part of the lab culture, that there will be even virtual lab members and this very specifically trained scientists that are part of a team, but they are virtual. Like it's quite conceptually quite interesting. The article.
Yeah,
I really recommend you to have a look at it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I didn't read this one, and this is what I say. It's very hard to keep track of everything.
Yeah.
And but it's very passionating because I saw like another some try to automate a full research workflow. I think it was a team in Japan from computer science, from like looking from literatures to establishing the method, making the experimentation, writing the paper, publishing it. And it's not perfect, but it was impossible to think possible in 2 years ago, you know. So it is moving very fast. And it really raised the question of us, researcher or project manager, what will be our work in the future, you know?
No, definitely.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So we are just 2 minutes after the time. Is there any last burning questions before we close the meeting, which is very interesting? I could spend hours to speak about this, but I don't want to stage everyone. We have a group for that, so this is the reason. So is there any like comment or questions before we end? I see like some interesting chats. What is very interesting? Well, that's a whole question. Personally, I try to conceptualize what is the place of human interactions in this future hybrid system, basically. Because not just, as I mentioned, I didn't mention it, but it's not just about productivity of science. It's about making better science and also potentially having just AI making science is maybe not the best for science because it takes place in the society and there is other governance issue and upskilling skills, and there is a lot of questions to think about the system. Well, that's another question, Maya. I see you should. I don't know if you're part of the group, Maya, but I think you need to join. And if you have any question for any of us, just drop an email, and we can organize another meeting directly, a 101 or take part to the groups, and we can discuss further because it's a very interesting topic. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Have a great Christmas break and New Year's Eve, and thank you for joining. And we will have a similar event at the end of January, a similar event. So if you're interested, you can register to the newsletter of the group or stay tuned to social media, and we'll be happy to organize a similar conversation in a month. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day, and see you next time.
Thanks a lot for organizing.
Thank you, Quentin.